Lead me, Lord, lead me by the hand and help me face the rising sun. Comfort me through pain that life may bring. There's no other hope that I can lean upon. Lead me, Lord, lead me all my life. Walk by me across the lonely roads that I may face. Take my arms and let your hand show me the way. Show the way to live inside your heart. All my days, all my life, you are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my light. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life. Lead me, Lord. Lead me, Lord. Even though at times I'd rather go alone my way. Help me take the right direction. Take your road. Lead me, Lord, and never leave my side. All my days, all my life, you are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my light. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life. You are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life, all through my days. Don't see me, oh
Okay, thank you so much. And that's a prayer from the Philippine Robotics National Team. I'm Mylena Biva, the national organizer of the Philippine Robotics Olympiad. And, you know, I have a dream. When I started the robotics program some 20 years ago, I've always dreamt that we need to bridge the education of the students, the educators, and even the school administrators to industry. And here we are today having this opportunity called Thinking Forward Philippines. I called it Thinking as is in present tense because I want the world to know, and even the Philippines especially, to know that we are work in progress And we know that this is just the beginning of our journey to bridge that gap, as I mentioned, to bridge education and industry together. So at this point, I'd like to welcome all of you. You're all watching either from Facebook Live or from YouTube, and of course MS Teams. And we'd like to say that in this group, for our friends from the industry, Dr. Vladimir Mariano, who I will introduce later on, for Miss Amy O'Haria, our friends from Job Heroes, Mr. Eric Concepcion, and also our guest from Canva, Joan Magno. Just to give you a background, that we have a total of 1,800 schools in the robotics program, and I started with only 8 schools in 1999. So we are growing, and we have with us some of the best, I would say, educators in the field of robotics. And in fact, we have just won a gold, silver, and bronze medal in the World Robot Olympiad hosted by Canada last week. So we're so proud of that. That's for the open or that creative category. So kudos. And then we have also been one of the top 20 in the Robot Virtual Games, which is also an international event participated by about 40 countries. Now, before we begin and I introduce our first speaker, I just want to show you a short video of what is the job of the future. So let's see, and hopefully we can have a better idea of why we need to really link up education and industry. Let's see this.
There is something going on in the world of work today. Some kind of a evolution that's forcing organizations to think differently about what it means to be an employee or a manager, and even what it means to actually work. There are 5 trends that are causing this evolution to happen. 5 trends that are forcing organizations to challenge everything they know about work. These 5 trends are globalization, mobility, millennials and changing demographics, new behaviors, and technology. Globalization is causing the world to become like one giant city. The language that you speak, the culture that you subscribe to, the currency that you transact in, and where you are physically located are all starting to matter much less. This means that organizations can
handle the first 10 minutes
anywhere in the world. Mobility is allowing us to
Still
stay
have to
connected
finish
to
this.
people and information anytime, anywhere, and on any device. This means that work is no longer a place you go to, it's something that you carry with you in your pocket wherever you are. Millennials are expected to comprise 50% of the workforce by 2020 and 75% of the workforce by 2025. Millennials are digital natives that expect and want to work in ways that reflect the year we live in. Most people live in 2015, but work at companies that operate like they are in 1975. Although millennials are driving enormous organizational change, it's important to remember that the future employee is anyone that is changing their behavior and mindset to adapt to the changing workforce. This means it doesn't matter if that person is 22 or 62. New behaviors are rapidly entering our organizations. For example, we are all comfortable living a more public life. We share our thoughts in blogs, post reviews on Yelp, have our entire professional history on LinkedIn, share pictures on Instagram, rant on Twitter, and engage in open conversations on Facebook. In fact, virtually every aspect of business behavior has changed, including the way we share, communicate, collaborate, teach, learn, find information, access technology, and create content. This is forcing organizations to fundamentally rethink and reimagine the way we work. Technologies such as big data, wearable devices, collaboration platforms, the Internet of Things, and cloud computing are enabling us to work in new ways while keeping us more engaged and productive. In the future of work, technology is the central nervous system of the organization that enables everything else to function. Together, these 5 trends, combined with an unprecedented war for talent, is forcing organizations to shift their mentality from creating a place where they assume employees need to work there to creating an environment where employees want to work there. When we think about the future of work, the organizations that can most effectively make this shift from from need to want are the ones who will be able to attract and retain top talent. This means that if your organization doesn't think about and plan for the future of work, then your organization will have no future.
Our first speaker for this afternoon is a graduate of BS in Statistics, magna cum laude, at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He also has a master's degree in science in computer science, minor in statistics from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He has a PhD in computer science and engineering in computer vision image processing from Pennsylvania State University. He also was the head of technologies of TechTrain Asia and introduced BBC Microbit as a tool for teaching and coding and AI, and introduced new courses that he developed like Smart Things, Smart Robots, Robot Swarm, Smart Wearables, Smart Homes, and Smart Cities. Currently, he is a teacher for coding and robotics at Little Genius Kindergarten and Educational Center. Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker is Dr. Vladimir Mariano. Let's give him a warm virtual applause.
Okay, I'm going to share a little bit about, I'm going to share my window. Is that okay?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead,
Okay,
Dr. Mariano.
sure.
We're all excited.
Okay, let me show you a few projects. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, yes, Dr. Mariano, we can see.
Okay, so, and another one here. Okay, this is an LED strip, 30 LEDs. And this, I think this is the most fun way to learn about for loops.
Nice.
Okay, this is polycarbonate, a roofing material, very common. Okay. So, another one siguro. Yeah, very simple robot. Okay, again, these are all powered by the microbit. You may have heard of the microbit. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, Dr. Mariano.
So I gave this talk a couple of times already. And the reason I moved from mentoring PhD students to undergrads, and now I'm in a few minutes I'll be starting a new class for 4 to 6 years old. Okay, and the reason is we have to prepare the next generation for technological progress that is not progressing linearly, but is actually accelerating. I started coding when I was 14, in 1988. I got hooked, and I made my own projects. I coded some games, some graphics, and then I went all the way. I did my PhD at Penn State, started a few tech companies, had 3 US patents, and now I'm teaching. I'm back to where I started, which is teaching kids how to code. Okay. I look at technology news every day. Okay, and I'm amazed that it's now very hard to predict the future. Like 2 years from now, what's gonna be there? I don't know. Before 20 years ago, it's safe to say that when you enter BS Computer Science or BS IT, it's easy to predict what job is going to be there. But now it's not. okay, because technology is changing a lot. I've been a CTO of a company that makes mobile apps, and I've seen how even the development platform is progressing. And I also have a big frustration with higher education because it's not adapting to the speed at which technology is changing. The four-year degree, sad to say, is getting more and more irrelevant. Companies now are starting to hire not based on degrees, where you got your school or the courses you took, or even your grades. They're starting not to care anymore. But it's more about skills, and they give you a coding exam. They look at your GitHub profile. They look at the apps you develop. They look at your independent projects. These are all not taught in school. So your degrees, and personally, I well, in my experience, I hired my nephew when he turned 18. I hired him as a mobile developer when he turned 18. So for me as a CTO, I look at what you're doing on the side, okay? Because it predicts what your experience, how efficient you are in learning new things, how adaptable you are. So how do we prepare our kids? Teach them how to code, because it's a way of code, it's a way of thinking, okay? So you have code.org, you have Barack Obama saying that coding is essential for the future, and even Steve Jobs saying that everyone in this country should learn how to program a computer because it teaches you how to think. I have students, okay, before in TechTrain, and I have here students who are doing Python already at 9 years old. Not because their mom and dad told them to do or their school told them to do, but because they were curious. They were curious about code. I even have a German student who made his own version of Flappy Bird. And we're doing robotics and LEDs and motors, and it's all fun. Okay. Today, I'm teaching like 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds microcontroller stuff, especially the BBC Microbit. Okay, it's a fun platform for kids who don't want to code but just want to have fun. Okay, and it's a great way to teach them robotics or even LEDs or even data. Okay, the BBC Microbit can give you all sorts of data from different sensors. Okay. So this is my platform now. So I hope you can explore this. There are many robots you can build using the BBC Microbit. It has an interesting history too. Like 4 years ago, it was created by the BBC to teach every British kid how to code and how to make their own devices. Okay, making your own device is fun. I'm now a hardware hacker. I've been making software for 30 plus years, and now I'm into hardware, and I'm totally obsessed with hardware. Whether it is Lego, robotics, what else? So many stuff. Okay, this one is a small city I built, and everything is running on one microbit. With LEDs, the water fountains, windmills, subway. And because the microbit has a radio, kids can program it over the radio. They can send radio commands. Okay. So I guess my message is let kids become makers. Even after you graduate from university, even if you're a professional, this is still my challenge. Be a maker. Pursue independent projects. Okay, so what is an independent project? An independent project is something that your teacher did not tell you to do. Okay, It is something that's coming from a burning passion to give birth to this new device, or just exploring things. Okay. And I also challenge you to go into electronics. Okay, they're so cheap now. Okay, and they are hardware and computer science. I think they can go together, and when you learn them, and they're so cheap now because of China. And it's a great way to learn, to hone your learning skills. Okay. Okay, so as you would notice in the news, companies are starting to hire based on skills, not based on school degrees, courses, or grades. So they would look at your past projects. What are you passionate about? What projects have you made? So it's great to pursue some interesting technologies out there. Like if you're going to make a mobile app, why don't you start with something cool like a game? Making a game is one of the best ways to learn coding. Okay, so now we are also exploring Minecraft. Yay! So you can learn a lot of computer science stuff while having fun. Yeah. So we have to explain to the parents that they're doing Minecraft, and yeah. My kids are already here. Okay. So
Yes.
I will be.
Can we have a group photo? By the way, for our viewers and for those who are in this call, I'd like to inform that Dr. Vladimir Mariano, Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so yeah.
Dr. Mariano, before you start your class.
Yeah. I have. Oh, hello. Maybe I should show one of my kids here.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr.
Okay,
Mariano.
hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Come on. Thank you. Come on.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's great. It's great to teach technology to kids. Like you can teach them motors, sensors. You can even teach them the data coming from the sensors, and how a simple computer program can use that data in order to drive something, to drive a robot, to drive LED lights, or even to control electric fans. Okay, so this is the BBC microbit. So this is this is amazing. This really changed my life. Yeah, so I hope you can explore this, and I hope it becomes popular in the Philippines. If not, maybe I can start a business in the Philippines that teaches microbit together with maybe Amy and and Mylene.
Yes, of course.
So yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Mariano, for the encouragement, and of course the sharing of what you have done and what you are doing at this point with regards to the microbit robotics and teaching early learners and engaging them into robotics. We do have our own program. We call it We Do. And we do robotics, which is using, of course, the Lego platform.
Yeah, we use the Lego too. I have a Lego here. One of our WeDo. Yeah, but I think that my problem with Lego, with WeDo, and even Mindstorm is that it's really expensive. I mean, if you're going to teach it to a low budget school, you cannot. It's too expensive. So I have usually I hack really strong hardware. I put a microbit there and make it remote controlled. Hello.
Yes. So that you can start your class. Can we have a group photo, Jobin? Take it away for those in the call so that we can have a souvenir photo with Dr. Vladimir Mariano. He's based in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Thank you so much for your time and all the wisdom you have provided.
Thank you for
one photo, Jobin, take it away. All right, everybody, please switch on your videos, please. so that we can have a souvenir photo with Dr. Vladimir Mariano. Please do tell us if you're coming to the Philippines so that we can arrange either a physical conference or a Zoom call, or just for you to see our Philippine Robotics Olympiad.
Yeah.
Jobin? Jobin? Right, one, please
Orange. Over orange.
Okay, one more.
Very good. Give me 5.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mariano. Thank you.
Thank you
and,
for.
have a good day. Thank
And
you. Yeah, but
to see you again. Okay.
thank you for sparing your time with us. And now you have your little learners.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Mylene. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
To meet you virtually. Okay, now let me turn over the floor to Miss Ami O'Haria, who will be introducing our next speaker. Ami, take it over.
Hi, so good afternoon. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
Okay.
So the next speaker I'm going to introduce has 30 plus years of solid all-around HR experience and delivery. This includes recruitment and talent acquisition, human resources operations, compensation and benefits, employee and industrial relations, employee engagement, communication, leadership and training, and even organizational development. So 30 years is no joke. In the BPO. So he's been in the BPO, the semicon, the telco, consumer healthcare, automotive, and food. So we've invited him today because he can really speak about the landscape of jobs today. So without further ado, I'd like to call in Eric Concepcion as our next speaker.
Thank you, Ami.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Mylene, for the invitation. I congratulate you and your progress in the robotics movement here in the Philippines. Very, very refreshing to see that there's a very live and active movement here in the Philippines. You know, Dr. Vlad and I didn't talk, but I was so surprised at what he did share earlier, because as he comes from the supply end of the equation, I come from the demand end of the equation. So supply means he's in charge of the development and helping the movement to increase the knowledge and baseline of all the technical knowledge, stock knowledge here in the Philippines or in Vietnam. While at the same time, I come from the opposite end, which means that I make sure that I help organizations find this very, very, especially for IT, very elusive talents here in the Philippines. I do agree with what he mentioned earlier, that the curriculum right now is becoming more and more, how do I say this, irrelevant or very slow to change. Because right now, by the time that companies make their demands known, for example, if you take today, you talk to the academe and say, hey, we want graduates to do this. By the time they graduate from a 4-year course, 2-3 years down the road, those are already irrelevant requests. And that's very unfortunate, because we haven't been evolving very fast here in the market or here in the Philippines. But that is reality that we all have to face. So what's out there in the market? And right now, we all understand where we are right now. We are in the midst of a very, very disruptive pandemic. Amy did mention that I have 30 plus years of experience. Not to brag, but to just say something factual. I have been in some of the best corner room offices Makati can provide, one of the best. But after 30 plus years, I find myself that I am one of those who lost their jobs because of the pandemic. And I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say that I've lost my job. And furthermore, it's becoming harder and harder to find jobs right now. I doubt if many of the graduates, those who graduated April or May this year, have found jobs already, because that was the height of the lockdown, right? So many companies weren't hiring at that time. It's easy for us to blame the pandemic and make excuses. I'll be lying to you if I if I say that I haven't been affected. What's worse is that I gave in to some slight, attacks of depression. Okay, um, but I didn't choose to drown myself with alcohol or other things that might be disruptive. But I did, did my share of back to back Netflix marathon sessions, which I think was not very very much productive. But that was a choice, okay. But I felt that there was something more important for me. So let me get back to you a little later on that one. We're all very, very much aware of the almost like catchphrase, which is the new normal. What's the new normal? People keep saying that they understand the new normal, okay? But really, do we understand the new normal? As Dr. Vlad said earlier, do we understand what's the technological advances to be made 2 years from now? What are the trending movements of where the IT development will take us? It's very hard. And if somebody says to you that they know, I'm not so sure. But let's take that something on the side first. A little background on the BPO history, and please stay on with me on this one, because we need to understand history, okay, to understand what are the jobs out there, especially 2021 and then the next few years. 25 years ago, probably many of the students or those who are participating were still very young then. 25 years ago, BPO started here in the Philippines as very simple outsourced solutions, data entry, okay, customer support, what else? Chat support, okay? And then after a few years, it kept evolving, okay? Then there were more complex jobs. Technical support, level 1, we needed somebody who's an engineer, we need somebody who has some technical background, and then the jobs keep coming here from technical level 1 to technical level 2 and so forth, okay? And then after a few more years, you have the more complex roles, analyst roles coming over, and then more and more complex roles. Right now, before the pandemic, even paralegals are being outsourced here in the Philippines. Even those with even minor surgeries can be done here in the Philippines, operating on patients who are based in the US. So that's how the global outsourcing is. Many say that it's bound to be a 1 trillion industry, in the next several years, and that's the reason why the revenues coming from the BPO industry will almost exceed the income of the OFWs in the next few years. It's not a matter of really. Is it going to overtake the revenues of OFWs? It's a matter of when, okay? So there you go. Several years back, I was in a forum with a government representative, somebody very, very reputable in the academic scene. And then I'm representing the industry or the BPO industry. And they said, what would be the jobs in the near future? And I said, that's difficult to estimate or forecast. But then I said, the jobs of the future will be jobs that will have bundled skills, okay? Bundled skills. So it's not just a one-dimensional job out there. What do I mean? Bundled skills would be if somebody is coding or designing, later on, what would be expected of that developer is not just development skills, but also their ability to communicate very well with clients. Okay, and later on, what will be important is that they can also sell what they're developing. So all in all, you have a very rounded, well-rounded person. Okay, so the skills coming in our country right now are those jobs that have skill sets that we haven't seen before. So it's exciting that when you see Dr. Vlad training the next generation, right now we are at the onset of that. We are at the onset of that development. In the next few years, the jobs that will be coming our way, we haven't seen that coming in the past few years. So very different landscape. So before I end, let me share with you a little about Jobs Hero. So early this year, when the pandemic was becoming a threat to us, one of my friends and I suddenly said, what is this a pandemic and how is this pandemic going to hit us? Okay. And we said it might affect many millions of jobs here in the Philippines, and many companies will be affected. And true enough, somehow, we didn't sound to be prophetic. Many companies have either closed shop or have reduced substantially their workforce. Okay, and for one, I said, why not form an organization or a team who will be able to help these displaced professionals or help fresh graduates find jobs now in this time. So what happened was, while I didn't have the skill towards building a new company, and that was I wasn't built for that one. I think it was the proper time to build one, and then you have Jobs Hero for at the height of the pandemic. And after several clumsy steps, okay, we find ourselves having many clients to help with. We have a number of developer requirements that we are having difficulty to find in the market right now. And I'm hoping we can hire several of the students of Dr. Vlad, because it's becoming harder and harder to find good developers. One thing that I want to share before I finish is that future jobs will not be dictated by big multinationals anymore. So future jobs will be dictated by small um, organizations, freelance organizations, and those jobs will be shorter gestation, and those jobs will have a duration of 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. But those jobs are coming our way because those jobs are starting to evolve and be created today by very, very good entrepreneurs. So with that, be open to the opportunities coming your way, okay? It's different from what we have left off before the pandemic, but be open because those jobs are starting to flood the market. So with that, Amy, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric, for sharing what is really expected from the BPO. It's a very huge industry, and we're glad that despite what's happening in well all over the world, there are jobs. So I learned in MBA school that jobs will not be reduced, right? They will only change in nature. So it's very important. I think Dr. Vlad also emphasized the need to retool and the need to reskill and to be so that you can stay relevant to the changing times, the shifting landscape. So thank you again for sharing what's happening in the BPO. We're very excited as more and more IT jobs are actually being um, uh, channeled to the Philippines, because not only are we very talented, but we have great work ethics. That's what I heard from our clients abroad. So yeah, thank you, Eric. And Mylene, did you want to add anything?
If Sir Eric can stay a little bit after Joanne Magno gives her talk, we would like to ask a few questions, maybe, if it's possible.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. That's very generous of you to give your time. Okay, go ahead, Miss Amy.
All right. So to introduce our next speaker, she is presently the group product manager for Canva. Who does not know Canva, right? It was in the news recently because the owner is actually a Filipino Australian. So Joanne Magno actually started her career in Caliber in 2017, where she was where she was product manager and was promoted as senior product manager before joining Canva in 2019. Now, prior to that, it's notable to say that Joanne graduated summa cum laude in her batch from the Ateneo de Manila University. So it's actually, we've invited her over, and we're glad that she came because we want to really inspire more women in tech. And I'm glad that Joanne has said yes to us. And so without further ado, let's welcome her with a virtual applause.
Wow, thanks so much, Amy. You're so kind. um, I'm just trying to figure out how to share my screen. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, so thanks, Amy. And yeah, I worked with Amy at Caliber, and it was such a pleasure working with you, Amy. You're amazing. Thank you. So today I wanted to tell you guys about this topic, making yourself hireable in 2020. I'm Joe. Hold on, give me a second to. Yeah, I'm Joe. Amy asked me to talk about what's really happening in the market and how I can give you guys tips on how to be more relevant and hireable in an agile environment, particularly from a female point of view, which we'll touch on a little bit, which is really interesting. I am working at Canva, a popular online graphic design tool, and I'm really grateful that they relocated me from Sydney to Manila. And I work on their Canva video product, which is heaps exciting. So you guys are about to graduate, or you just graduated. You want to be hireable by anyone in the market, in the Philippines, or even overseas. What skills do you need to be successful today in the technical space, and how can you land that job? I'm going to cover some tips from what I've seen working in this space, and I hope it's helpful to all of you. The first thing is you actually have to be really good at what you do. I can't stress this enough. It doesn't matter what programming languages you kind of know. If you're not really good at them, you will not get, great and amazing jobs. But the good thing is the market absolutely loves you. So what's happening in the market? There's always demand for software engineers, demand for people who can code, people who have technical backgrounds, have really big advantages in today's work environment. Tech companies are growing. So this is the stock index of tech companies. And as you can see, despite the pandemic, they've grown insanely in the past 10 years. You just have to look at the darling of the stock market today, Tesla, huge growth. And it's the tech stocks that are bringing up the entire index. So as these companies are growing and they're sprouting up also because of the remote work environment, so are the jobs. Tech companies today also have really great benefits. At Canva, we have chef-made lunches and breakfasts every day. At Google, you probably have watched the internship and they have cool things like slides. So you're in a really good place where the skills that you have are demanded by these amazing companies who need you. At Canva today, we actually have 150 open jobs despite the pandemic, and we can't even find enough people to hire. We have to compete with other tech companies such as Google and Atlassian, who are based in Australia. And Australia doesn't even have enough software engineers to fill the needs of these tech companies. So it's quite common to hire people from overseas, and Canva has to compete with Google, who has really deep pockets to pay these software engineers. So huge demand, not enough people. That's why we hire outside of Australia. Within the software engineering realm too, you can start to specialize. It's like a skills tree if you've played those games. For example, it's really hard to hire people in data science, in AI, people experienced with search, machine learning, and other specialized fields. But those jobs are also quite scarce. At Canva, we probably only have 4 openings for artificial intelligence, but endless openings for software engineers. So in this slide, I'm going to put an example of the differences between web developers, iOS developers, and Android developers. It's so much easier to find jobs for web developers. There's like 1,300 jobs when I looked at one website, Indeed, in Australia listed. But their pay is not as big as those of iOS or Android developers, but your job, the access you have to jobs is only 10%, even smaller of that size. So by specializing, you can have access to higher pay, especially in the technical field, but you have fewer options. So as a fresh grad, you're probably going to want to go into a more generalized space and specialize from there. And as a fresh grad, I remember thinking, employers are always looking for experience. You know, they're like, you need 1 year of experience to do a junior role. So how much experience do you actually need? The good thing is, if you're a fresh grad, a lot of startups and tech companies have fresh graduate programs where they hire directly from universities. So what you have to be really good at here is your technical aptitude, because there's always a coding exam. So more on that later. But if you're already experienced and you're not a fresh grad, they actually want to see a lot of your past experiences. What GitHub source codes have you contributed to? And even during the coding exam, they have a higher standard for how much you can achieve during the coding test if you're experienced. So it's sometimes not a good thing also to be experienced, because I've seen people who were really good who got cut because they were trying to go for a senior role, and junior people who were not experienced get in because they were just more junior. So it's kind of like a pros and cons. Interviewers are less strict with junior people as well. And really with startups and tech companies, they really just look for technical aptitude. You cannot get by without being really good at programming. Every single test is like, we do 3 hours of programming at Canva. Google will fly you to their site and make you do a test there. So it's really like a really big thing that you have to be really good at your foundations and how much you've invested in your craft. And also one thing that I want to mention is you are world-class. I want to kill the idea that Filipinos are not world-class talent. That's not true. So many people my age and people I've worked at in Caliber now work at Facebook, now work at Google, and that did it. And at first it stopped them from trying to go overseas and go to a lot of these amazing companies because they thought they weren't at that level, but in fact they were. So that's one thing I want to tell you guys is you are world-class talent, and don't assume that you can't, get those jobs until you're actually rejected. So assume you're qualified until rejected. But no matter how good you are, there's always a process, and that process is you have to be really good at making a resume, really good at getting referred, and also acing the interview. So those are kind of tips to try to get into companies, and I'm going to cover a bit of them today. So how do you make a killer resume? Today, employers will rarely look for fresh grads via LinkedIn. They will usually have grad programs at universities, and then they get their resumes through the career portals and the applicant tracking system. One way you can make your resume better is by keyword stuffing. Put in a lot of keywords, especially things like Java, if you have experience in that, C#, C++, because all of the systems they use just screen for those keywords, and recruiters sometimes do that too. And the list that they get, the requisition that they get from companies also says those specific skills. So make sure that your resume is machine readable, because a machine will process you first. The second thing that I want to tell you is referral. So one secret thing is you can actually be referred to companies even if you don't know people in them. The reason is that employees at those companies get referral bonuses when they refer someone, and if that person gets hired. For example, I've referred people who randomly reach out to me on LinkedIn, even if I've never met them before, because on the off chance that they get hired, I get money from Canva. A colleague at work at my workplace got 100,000 pesos just by referring one engineer that reached out to her via LinkedIn. So employees at current companies actually have incentive to refer you even if they don't know you. So reach out to people. Like, here's some examples of people reaching out to me, trying to get referrals. And people who are referred, actually sometimes people I've referred have skipped the initial interview. They get interviewed immediately. So it really depends. Don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn to get referred. And with that, if you're a software engineer, you want to work at Canva, send me your resume and I'll refer you. The next thing is acing the interview. If there's one thing you should study for, it's your technical interview. So I have a friend and colleague at Caliber who spent 3 months studying for his Google interview, and he only studied 2 days for his Canva interview. He failed his Canva interview, but passed his Google one, and now he lives here in Sydney. So preparation is really, really important. Think of it as like a big final exam. Study all your foundations, your technicals before you go in for that interview, because you will land. It's a job that you will land. And when you get that job, that's just really how far your technical skills will take you. And now you need soft skills, and there's 2 skills that software engineers lack usually, especially women engineers. So some of the things I'm going to tell you are from the Women Engineering Society at Canva, because tech companies are full of white male engineers. And that's no surprise. Usually I'm in meetings and it's full of men. Like, it's barely any women, even in leadership. So there are 2 things you need to do to succeed in this environment. The first thing is confidence. This is a skill that most software engineers lack when they get inside the workplace, and it's often not screened during the interview process. The main problem female engineers have is they tend not to back themselves up in technical discussions. They don't raise their point of views. They lack confidence on their technical knowledge. Even if they have the experience, they're not given opportunities and responsibilities which are given to their male counterparts because they're not vocal and they don't ask for things. They have difficulty selling their ideas and speaking up in male-dominated meetings. They wait to be called on before they express their opinion, and they walk away from arguments instead of standing their ground. So working on your confidence skills is one way that you can advance your career, especially in the technical space, because it's a place full of, I would say, introverts. The second thing is visibility. To be a leader, you have to believe in you, and often females are quite afraid of getting in the limelight. We don't want to take ownership over our achievements because it's rude or inappropriate. They don't want to brag. But if people don't know about the work that you do in that space, you have to just be really good at. Something you have to work on is overcoming that. And because culturally, women are more quiet and polite. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. We covered how to make yourself hireable in this day and age. As someone in the technical space, you're wanted, people want you, you're in huge demand, and you can juggle specializing to get higher pay, but having fewer job options, and by being a generalist. But no matter how good you are, you have to be really good at that interview process. That's about making a great resume, getting referred, acing the interview. And after you get into a company, the learning never stops. You have to be good at soft skills, particularly your confidence and your visibility in the company. And at any point in your career, there's always room to make yourself even more hireable. So I think you should never stop learning, whether it's 2020 or 2025. But yeah, so that was all I wanted to share with you guys. Thanks so much.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Joanne. Amy?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You know, hearing Joanne speak about how we need to encourage more girls in STEM, it validates what I have been doing, Joanne, for the past 20 years. You know, I started the robotics program for basic education in the Philippines some 20 years ago. About actually 1999, and at the time there were no girls. No girl would touch robotics because they said it's only for boys. You know, at first they thought that it's just a movie, and then only in the last, I believe, 7 to 8 years did we start having trickles of girls, because the parents, we had to convince the parents that girls can excel, particularly in software, particularly in computer coding, computer programming, because we are very good at details, and that the girls are good in programming, sometimes even better than boys. But no offense to the boys, but it's really good that you have shared with us. We do have, just for your information, we do have educators also here in the call and who are viewing us from all over the Philippines, in fact, globally. Yeah, globally. And I also do encourage, because we do have a Philippine Robotics Society. And at first, we also did not have that many teachers who are teaching robotics or teaching computers or teaching coding. And now we have at least 30% are females. And as for the girls, we now have about 40% in the program. So it's growing and growing. And I believe you're a testament that no longer are girls just meant for the service industry. No longer are they.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, because the parent or the well, no offense, but BPOs, because they said, okay, they're better for call centers because they speak very well English or so on. But you know, it really made my this whole mission a very, I would say, it completed the whole testament. I just wished you were in the robotics program.
Oh, I would love to learn robotics.
We do have an Ateneo now, but it's just in grade school, and we were supposed to roll out in high school, but unfortunately COVID set in. But just the same, we were looking forward to having more of these all boys schools now getting into the robotics. And now we have also, of course, the all girls schools, and more girls coming in. And not to discriminate the boys, do we have questions on the floor? I think this is such an opportunity for us to ask questions. You did give us a lot of insights on how they can start their career in IT, as you said, just really building their confidence. And the robotics program, we do C++, we do, some already have learned Java, and of course MicroPython, so they're underway. So I believe we have questions. I would like to call Michael. Michael, you're in the call. Michael Cunanan. Michael Cunanan, you're from Livingstone International School. Or do we have any question? Annalyn or Joanne? Okay, let's see. You know, one of the things also, as you said, techie people, they're not really very vocal. But Annalyn, do you have a question?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Hi, Miss Joanne. That talk is very inspiring. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's very inspiring, all the things that you've shared with us. At the moment, we are live through our Felta Facebook page, and most of our kids from I Create Cafe Manila, it's a creativity center wherein we cater robotics for all ages. Most of them are watching. So any words of encouragement for all the girls who are in STEM and in the program at the moment? Thank you.
Oh my God, you guys are so lucky. I'm trying.
Don't cry.
My tears are so shallow. Anyway, so you're such a great, opportunity to be learning robotics at such a young age, to be doing STEM at such a young age. I wish I was exposed to those things, so I'm so happy.
Yes, we will share with you our video. Yes. Okay, Joanne, all right. Thank you so much. Any words other than tears?
Yeah, no, I mean, I really am so happy that you're giving all these opportunities to these girls and to STEM, because that's really tough. And if no one's pushing that movement, it's not gonna happen. And society will stay the same. And here, when I moved here to Australia, there's so much women coding and technical movement that I didn't see when I was growing up. So I think you guys are giving that opportunity to kids and to students, so take advantage of that as much as possible.
Now, okay. Also, we would like to ask you a question. I'll ask a question. While we're still waiting for the other educators and other students in the webinar, I'd like to ask. Okay, because you're working abroad, but we do want our workforce here in the Philippines. Is there any suggestions you have so that they can have you compare the salaries? But of course, we know that if you live in the Philippines and you're having the same job, you are not earning as much as per se for yourself in Australia. But can you share with us, like maybe, and also encourage our viewers that it may be good as well to stay in the Philippines and work in the IT field?
Yeah. In the IT, yeah, so I started in the IT industry in the Philippines, and it gave me all the skills I needed, especially starting in a small startup, to learn those experiences. And even in the Philippines, comparatively, the salaries of people in the technical space are very high. So coming out of, like, as a fresh grad, you are going to get like pretty good starting salaries, so which comparatively is good. And also the rate of increase in the Philippines is much wider than in Australia. So for example, you could quickly bypass salaries that you'll find in Australia if you're really, really senior in the Philippines. And that's something I've learned because of how just the government and being a social kind of country. But yeah, so it's always good to start out locally so you can get some skills, and then you can take that when you go overseas.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Annalyn, any more questions from the Facebook page or from YouTube? For Joanne, let's take this opportunity because we use Canva. We use a lot of Canva, and we have been reading about the founder being Filipina Australian, being a billionaire.
We have one more question, ma'am, from our kids from I Create Cafe Manila. They're actually 10 to 15 years old. Yeah. Actually, we are using both robotics in Minecraft, introducing STEM with our center. Now, the question is, how was the experience, and what are the motivation for you to continue the program, starting up early from scratch coding to Java coding and so on. So what are the drives and the motivation for you to go and create something that can make a big thing for your career?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Oh, what's the motivation to continue working on my career? And I think the motivation is about building. You guys are in robotics and you're coding and you're building and making something. So you're absolutely creative. And I think taking that into the workplace and being able to build something that affects the lives of millions of people. You guys mentioned you use Canva, and that makes me so happy because the thing that I'm working on is helping a robotic society in the Philippines. And my dad used Canva like 2 days ago, and he was like, I love Canva. And that makes me really happy. And it's not just you guys, but NGOs, entrepreneurs all around the world use Canva for free. And just that every day means that what you're creating helps the lives of people. So I personally would not work at a company that was building tech products that didn't improve the lives of people. So I'm happy that the work that I'm doing does do that, and being in a technical space, you have that opportunity too.
All right, that's great. I think, ma'am, we have question from St. John Institute.
Okay, from Bacolod, yes.
From Sir Stephen.
Yes, and by the way, Sir Eric Concepcion is back, so we can ask him some questions as well. Okay. All right, go ahead. Why don't you have them ask the question themselves from St. John? Yeah.
Johan, you can open your camera.
Johan, go ahead. Stephen from Bacolod.
Okay, actually, my Johan is visually impaired, but he knows Swift UI, and he is now self-studying the Actually, I'm addressing this question to the lady in the
Joanne.
Joanne. Yeah, Joanne.
That's her name.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Joanne.
Tite.
He is taking up a course in Coursera about RSS and CSS and HTML. But he has problem with proceeding because it's more of design. So what's your suggestion for him to proceed further, because he's studying it now? He cannot see the design actually. So ano ginagamit mo? Do you wala man?
Yeah. Can you show Johan, the guapo Johan? Johan is visually impaired, but he has been into robotics since he was 12 years old. Stephen, he's now 14. How old is Johan now?
14.
14. Yeah, hi Johan. Johan is, yes. He started robotics at the age of, how old are you, Johan? 12?
12.
12.
Amazing.
Now 14 na siya. 14,
Now,
yeah,
yes.
12. Around 12.
He's now 14. And
When Swift started supporting Lego Mindstorm, this time we started robotics.
okay, great. And Johan is now studying. So can we ask Joanne to answer his question, please?
Yeah, that's actually quite a difficult question, because you're right, website design has largely been, visual. And first of all, kudos to you for, continuing your robotic studies and really investing in this. One thing that you can use is a screen reader. So nowadays, there's a lot of technical movement to be more accessible to people with disabilities. And screen readers are a way to do that. And I suppose he can try HTML, CSS coding and using a screen reader to check what you're doing. It would actually be really fascinating, because as someone with that experience, you coming into that space, you know what's lacking in the market. And I can tell you, tech companies today sometimes don't prioritize that. So that's why it's not heavily supported, but I would heavily suggest the use of a screen reader to continue your studies if you don't already.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you and hi to Johan. He's our wonder boy.
Hi. You're amazing.
Yeah. He's visually impaired, but he beat also the regular student in the competition. So he's really our wonder boy, and it's so nice that he's still interested in robotics, because he's a good singer, and sometimes their interest changes. I do have a question now for Eric, because Eric has joined us again, and we'd like to ask Eric, what is the usual salary range for Filipino developers?
I knew you were putting me on the spot, so thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the more common requirements right now in the market would be Drupal, Magento developers, Ola or online advertisement, because more and more companies right now are shifting to e-commerce, especially in the last several months, with all of us doing our shopping in the confines of our homes. So developers who would normally have 2 to 3 years of experience can get as much as anywhere between 50 to 70,000 pesos per month. Okay, and that's just a minimum. If you have at least 5 to 6 or 7 years of experience for those platforms, you can easily command a price close to 100,000, rivaling those of manager salary rates. So if you don't want to manage people and still do coding, developing, and still pursue your craft, you can comfortably earn in the confines of your room such rates.
Yes, thank you so much, Eric. I didn't mean to put you in a spot, but also we have a lot of educators also. We don't want them to quit their jobs in the school. The owners will get mad at me because they're our partners. But as you have mentioned, that there are short projects that that's the reason why we encourage our educators to join us, because we have very good programmers, developers in our community, and maybe they can participate as part of their professional certification short projects. So we really do have low-hanging fruits or really good talents here in the pool that we have. And I know that we will have a lot of inquiries. Some of them are really very shy. I know them because I've been doing this for 20 years. But after this webinar, a lot will be calling and sending emails, I assure you.
Mylene, can I add?
Yes, yes.
The outsourcing here in the Philippines is starting all over again. So we all know that in the last several months, many jobs were lost all over the world. Okay, so in those countries, especially first world countries, where they also had to release a number of their respective employees, especially the global companies. Some of them or several of them are not hiring back in those countries. You know where they're hiring them? Here in the Philippines.
Yes.
At the rates I mentioned, they can provide the same quality solutions and work that they see with their foreign peers. So unfortunate for them, I'm sorry, but fortunate for us, because those jobs are starting to come back here in the Philippines. So there's a caution there, because I think, as Glad or my Joe has mentioned, it's getting harder and harder to find those talents here, knowing that they are very much in demand. So those who are starting to code, develop, keep it up, because you guys will rule the world.
We will rule the world. Great. That's good to hear, Eric. Yeah, so everyone who's watching us, remember that what Eric from Job Heroes has said. We will rule the world as long as you're good at your coding and stick to what you're good at and be confident.
Yeah, very soon.
Yes. May we have some closing remarks from Eric and Joanne before we have our group photo and a closing by Amy.
Ladies first.
Joanne?
Oh, well, closing remarks. I wish I was in your position when I was learning robotics at such a young age. You're actually in a position to be really valuable in society if you continue doing what you're doing and don't lose sight of just honing your craft, because you guys are the next generation who will kick us out and be way better than us. So yeah, huge kudos to you guys.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, you heard that. All right, Eric, may we ask you to give us some parting words, please?
So be open to opportunities, especially to help organizations. So sometimes it's easy for us to say, to monetize every opportunity. How much are you going to pay me on that project or here? Sometimes it pays to really just help. And if we are able to have that disposition of helping others, we not only help them, but also improve our craft. So when we do this first, sometimes the universe smiles at us, and all the opportunities are opening left and right, and it's there for us for the taking. So thank you.
Great. Okay, and I hope that for all our viewers, you will share with us your that voluntarily share with us your information so that we can pass it on to Job Heroes so that they can see if there's a match for their current projects. And please do remember that if you're an educator, we just need for you to ask permission, or at least inform your school so that they don't or you're not curious, you don't lose a job. Okay, so I mean, you earn as well as while you're teaching your students. So that's a double win for you, isn't it? Okay, and at this point, before we do our closing, may we have a group photo with Joanne and Eric and Amy. So Jobin, please give the cue. Jobin. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll always have our class picture. All right. Okay, and all All right, before I pass on the floor to Amy for the closing, I'd also like to invite both Eric and Joanne, and of course, we'll invite Dr. Vladimir and Amy, of course, in our future programs of the Philippine Robotics Olympiad and the Philippine Robotics team. We're now preparing for another international event, which is the 10th 10th First Lego League, where we will do a hybrid competition, which includes robotics and research and also the robot game. So this will be happening in March of 2021. So there are already schools preparing for this. Now I turn the floor to Amy O'Haria to give the closing remarks.
Sure. Well, being in the learning and development role in a leadership capacity for over 15 years, I've really spent some time studying, bridging the academe to industry. I've been in the industry side in the BPO, and just so you know, what's really happening in the BPO is a lot of us probably think that the BPO is just all call center, right? But right now, that's probably roughly 60% of the job. And if I demonstrate it, it would look like a triangle where the base is actually call centers, the middle part is IT, and the top part would probably be back office. So that's your HR, accounting, legal. Those are the processes or business processes that are outsourced to us. In the next few years, as a report, based on the report of IBPAP, our industry will be reshaped, where the middle part, which is the biggest part, will be made up of IT jobs. We've experienced that in Caliber, that slowly a lot of the Silicon Valley startups are trusting us, but we don't really have the tier 3 levels yet, at least not enough, right? From working in the BPO also for more than a decade, we've experienced, and Eric can also attest to this. There is actually no contest about the capability of Filipinos. And our, as a human capital, I would say as a human resource capital or country, we should really invest in our workforce, because we're able to generate a lot of jobs for the people. The BPOs are getting more, I guess, contracts from foreign clients. So I guess what I'm saying is, I just recalled what Dr. Vlad was saying earlier. Invest not only in your 4-year degree course, but also invest in time building your skill after the 4-year course, because it's going to be really based on your experience in projects. You have to get your hand dirty. You have to be agile in this market, because let's say today they may need a lot of front end developers, but later on, maybe like after your project, there may be a more need for front end developers or full stack developers. Right now, we're seeing 300 or more job openings for one company alone for developers. So it's huge. It's huge. The BPO industry is being reshaped into a diamond, where the middle part is going to be IT. So, us being a supplier of human capital, we need to get ready, both academe and the industry. Diba? So, again, my final message is that, as an individual, as an employee myself, as a person also in L&D, and as a person who has seen the evolution of the BPO industry, my call to action really for everyone is to get reskilled consistently, constantly, because again, like what Eric mentioned earlier, we don't know, we've never even thought about my impression of, or my idea of a product manager, let's say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, was a product manager for an FMCG, right, company. But today we have product managers who actually develop apps, who try to understand the customer journey and customer experience and all that fun stuff. So we don't know what jobs are going to be required later on. But again, but today what we can do is, keep on making ourselves relevant by being reskilled, retooled, and so on. So calling all, partners, academe and industry to work together, continuously work together, and funnel our candidates to these jobs, because not everyone know where they are, where to look for them. So there are groups that actually assist you in those. So again, Mylene, thank you for your group, and Joanne and Eric, thank you for gracing our event today. So good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much, Annie. And again, I would like to extend our partnership and collaboration with Job Heroes, because we have a community, and rest assured, we will continue to hone our craft so that we can make many more Joannes and make many more Erics and many more Amy. We will clone you. We will clone you as we start very young at the age of 4 years old, and we will make sure that we will not have a deficiency in human capital, as you said, for the workforce. All right. So with that, I would like to say thank you so much. And this is just the beginning. We will have more collaboration and probably more inspiring speakers, such as Amy, Joanne, Eric, and Dr. Vladimir, to keep on saying to us, you are in the right path. And as Eric has said, we are the future. We are the future. Okay. So thank you very much. Good night and God bless. Take it away, Jobin. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.